Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live, generally Thursdays at 6 p.m. Every now and then it'll be an odd day or time, but usually Thursdays at 6. And you can find us on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel, as well as Facebook page or Twitter page. We stream live, so come on and check us out. And if you do happen to be tuning in live and you think of a comment or a question, please do send it on in. I love the interaction. I think it makes the show just that much better. And if you can't catch the live show, no problem. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can always catch the archive version on any one of those medium. So Twitter, Facebook, or the YouTube channel. And if you like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from. So there's Jays from the Couch's men podcast, generally Mondays at 6 p.m. That's hosted by Sean Doyle, our founder. And Sean has always got a lot of really interesting things, interesting topics, other people on there to give their viewpoints, whether it's other Jays from the Couch writers, such as myself. This past Saturday, we did a special episode to recap the trade deadline and had a gentleman on there that covers the Minnesota Twins. So very topical, of course, and we'll get to that in a bit. And if you don't catch the Jays from the Couch's podcast live, you can watch it archive, or you can actually download it and listen to it as a radio podcast. So any good podcast carrier, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, you can find Jays from the Couch pretty much anywhere. And the other YouTube show, been on for a while, Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. is the On Feck Circle, hosted by Steve Feck, my crazy colleague. And Steve is very interesting. He's smart. He's got a ton of baseball knowledge and very, very funny and very outside of the box. Steve always makes me think of things in a way that hadn't occurred to me. Now, I often end up disagreeing with him, and that's fine. We're two mature, intelligent adults who are entitled to our different opinions. But Steve's very worth a watch or listen, so if you haven't been doing so, make sure you check out the On Feck Circle on Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Hello, Blue Jays fans! How's everybody doing this week? I'm doing really well. So much to be happy for if you're a Blue Jays fan. Now, number one thing, I went to the home opener. They've had 3 home openers this season. What a crazy season it's been. But their first game back in Toronto in close to 2 years. The last time they were here and actually playing a game, I'm not counting summer camp, which was in July of last year. But yeah, from September 2019 until the tail end of July 2021. So long time to be gone, but it was so great to have them back and to be able to go to the game. More on that later. So as usual, leading off the housekeeping in the last 8 days or so. The last time I was on was a Wednesday, and lots has happened. So definitely lots to get into there. So some players have gotten optioned actually. Some mostly actually all pitchers from the looks of it. So Patrick Murphy, Kirby Snead, Trent Thornton, and Thomas Hatch. So they're all down in the minors in AAA with the Buffalo Bisons, who are now back in Buffalo. So yes, and yes, all the best to them. Different levels of experience and ability and ceilings and all of that. But I don't think we've seen the last of all of them. So do well down there, and I'm sure your turn will happen again. Jacob Burns, He's somebody that the Blue Jays got in a trade earlier this season with the New York Mets, who had DFA'd him, and now he's been DFA'd by the Jays. He actually went unclaimed, and he's now been outrighted, so he's still in the organization with AAA Buffalo, but he's no longer on the 40-man roster. So again, just got to wish him all the best. And it's happened before where players have come off the 40-man roster, and then for whatever reason they get put back on later on, or could end up back in the majors with another team. So see how that goes. Tyler Chatwood. He was DFA'd, and then a couple of days later, he was actually granted his outright release. So what can you say? All the best to Tyler Chatwood. As I believe I said one or two podcasts ago, that, if we see Tyler Chatwood back in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform again, I only want to see the good Tyler Chatwood, the one that throws strikes and doesn't walk the house. Well, I guess it was the latter. So wish him all the best. He actually had several good outings for the Blue Jays, but when he was bad, he was very bad. And he was actually with AAA for a while, trying to work his way back on a rehab assignment. And he was still walking too many guys. The control just wasn't there. And if you're going to pitch effectively in MLB, you got to throw strikes. So best of luck to him wherever he ends up. Little bit of a heartbreaker for me personally. So needing some 40-man roster spots because of all kinds of comings and goings. Jonathan Davis, unfortunately, drew the short end of the stick and was DFA'd in order to remove him from the 40-man roster, and then he was claimed by the New York Yankees. So he is gone from the organization. He's now with a division rival. And although part of me wonders what the heck the Yankees need with another outfielder. If anything, they have even more outfielders than the Blue Jays do. Not that I know their roster inside out and backwards, but who do they have? Stanton, Judge. They traded for Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks, Brett Gardner. Yeah, that's the other one there. And now they've got Jonathan Davis. So I don't know. Anyway, Jonathan Davis, very, very likable guy as far as I know him, as far as I know of him, excuse me. And I just love the tools that he has, the speed, base running, the defense as a center fielder. So too bad he didn't stick with the Jays. All I can do is wish him the very best in the future with the Yankees, just not against the Blue Jays. But anyway. So that's that. Excuse me for a second. Okay, so back to transactions. Taylor Saucedo. Interesting. So relief pitcher that he's pitched in some games for the Jays, and he was actually optioned because of some other additions that they made. They needed spots on the 26-man roster, and I was sort of thinking that, what a luxury to be able to option somebody to AAA who has actually pitched well and helped the team. And prior to yesterday's game, Saucedo had done quite well. He had pitched in 8 games for the Jays, and he had owned a 1.59 ERA. So that's not too shabby. But they went with some guys with some more major league experience, hopefully that they can hand the ball to and get the job done. He's actually been called back up due to an injury and got into the game yesterday, and yikes, I don't know what happened. He didn't even get anybody out. He gave up 5 hits and 4 runs, and finally he just wasn't getting the job done, and Montoyo had to replace him. So that's very unfortunate. Don't know what the heck happened there. Hopefully it was just one bad game, and he can bounce back and be the Saucedo that he was prior to yesterday. Fingers crossed. Kevin Bizio, he's actually gone back on the injured list. Apparently, they said the neck and back problems have just been with him pretty much for the season. And even though he was activated and he played quite well in the month of June, but then he really regressed again in July. And they're saying apparently he never, and it never completely left those problems. And I mean, I'm not a professional athlete myself by any means. Unfortunately, I do suffer from a recurring bad back, so I know how hard that is if it's acting up and it's not really going away. So really wish him all the best. I'm kind of hoping, finding out that he is injured again still, that might be part of his subpar hitting again in July and in early August when he did play. Yeah, because his numbers weren't pretty, and I'm a big fan of Kevin Bizio. I really believe that he has a place, a solid place on this Blue Jays team as a good contributor. So hopefully he can get healthy and be back to the Kevin Bizio that he has been earlier in his career. So wait and see what happens there. So yeah, and some recalls. So Alek Manoah, he had been on the injured list. He was activated, made a start, looked great. I mean, knock on wood, it seemed like he just hasn't missed a beat, and he has really impressed. I'm wondering actually if he's going to get some consideration for American League Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he'll win it, but he should definitely be in the race. He's done so well, and yeah, he's joined the rotation of a team in the American League East. Lots of tough teams. I mean, there are 4 teams in the AL East that are in the playoff hunt. Sorry, Baltimore Orioles, your time will come. But yeah, I mean, pitching in a very tough division, being a rookie, and he hasn't been intimidated. He's done so well. And really, if you're a Jays fan, you really got to love what Alek Manoah brings to the table. So great to have him back. And Corey Dickerson, he was also activated a couple days ago, made his Jays debut, and he's done fairly well. He's a hitter from the left side of the plate, something the Jays have really wanted, and done pretty well in a couple of games. So see what kind of addition that ends up being. I think in that trade where they got Adam Simber, that Adam Simber was their real target, just my opinion, because everybody knew how bad the Blue Jays bullpen had been around that time of the season. I mean, they just blew so many winnable games, and if they were going to stay in the hunt, they had to do something. So really, they took Corey Dickerson's salary in order to get Adam Simber, and all they had to give up in return was Joe Panik, who, no disrespect, but with the emergence of Santiago Espinal, Panik was expendable, as well as a pitching prospect that I'll be honest, I hadn't even heard of him until the trade. So yeah, I mean, I think Adam Simber has pitched so well. I think if the Jays get anything at all from Corey Dickerson this season, that it'll be gravy, icing on the cake, so to speak, and then see what happens because he's eligible for free agency at the end of this season. But anyway, yeah, so those were a couple of transactions. So trade deadline day, continuing with transactions and moving into some bigger news. So July 30th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, that was the official deadline. So the Jays actually made 3 moves if you count the day before. So they traded for another relief pitcher, Brad Hand, from the Washington Nationals, and they gave up catching prospect Riley Adams. Okay, I'll take that. It's absolutely worth the gamble. Brad Hand has been a very good pitcher in his career, and even earlier this season, from April around till around mid-July, he was pitching very, very well. Lately, he's hit a bit of a bump in the road. He had pretty much a bad week with the Washington Nationals in July, and then the Blue Jays traded for him. He's pitched in a couple of games, given up runs on both occasions. once he gave up a run on Friday, which was their first game back in Toronto in quite some time there. Now that still ended up being a Blue Jays win. They had a big enough lead that they didn't surrender the lead. It just made it a little bit closer. Unfortunately, he gave up a few runs in extra innings on Monday's game, and to date, that's the only game in Toronto that the Blue Jays have lost this season. So pretty darned impressive. I mean, the Blue Jays had 5 catchers on their 40-man roster. That situation wasn't going to continue indefinitely. I had a pretty good feeling that at some point somebody was going to be traded. And really, when you look at those 5 catchers, Riley Adams was probably number 4 or 5 on the depth chart. So I don't mind at all that they gave him up in order to get Brad Hand roll the dice and hope that he can return to the success that he had as recently as a few weeks ago. So far, it hasn't been great in a Blue Jays uniform, but I'm still very hopeful that he'll actually be a good contributor for the Jays. Another trade that they made was they acquired another relief pitcher, Joaquin Soria, from the Arizona Diamondbacks in exchange for, we don't even know yet, 2 players to be named later. So really can't even comment on that until we know who they are. Probably won't find out until the off season. And Soria has gotten into one game, pitched 1 inning, pitched a scoreless inning, and seemed to be a good addition there. And now, unfortunately, he's on the injured list with inflammation in his finger. So that doesn't sound good. Hopefully this is something that can get sorted out sooner than later, and he can come back, because he looked like a pretty good addition, not necessarily for multiple innings in one game, but a 1-inning relief pitcher, medium leverage-ish, and so hopefully that he can come back. Last but absolutely not least, the big splash that the Blue Jays made on July 30th, in the morning of July 30th or around noonish, thereabouts. They made a big trade, and I'll be honest, they kind of surprised me. I think they surprised a number of people. So they acquired one of the better starting pitchers that were available on this year's trade market. They acquired right-handed starting pitcher Jose Barrios from the Minnesota Twins, and they gave up a fair bit to get him. They gave up 2 of their top 5 prospects, minor league prospects. So Austin Martin, position player, not even quite sure what his future position or positions will end up being. I mean, he's played infield, he's played shortstop. I think he's officially listed as a shortstop, but he's played some third base. Some people think he might be better as a second baseman, and he's also played some center field. So who knows where he'll end up there. And the other prospect, Simeon Richardson. So one of the 2 pitching prospects that the Blue Jays received when they traded away Marcus Stroman back in 2019. Woods Richardson, with all due respect to Anthony Kay, was probably more what the Blue Jays were after in that trade as far as the return that they were getting back and his future ceiling and potential. Now, Woods Richardson, he's a young guy, and he's already quite advanced for his age in terms of his progression through the minor leagues. Some people, to start this season or in the off season, were thinking that, Woods Richardson has been so advanced he could even make his major league debut this season. Well, now he's with the Twins. I don't really know what their plans are for him, obviously. He's actually struggled at Double-A this year, pretty much for the first time in his professional career. He had an ERA over 5 with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, 5.06. So not to say that he can't do better than that, but he sort of struggled. And Austin Martin, the Blue Jays drafted him just last year. he was projected to actually go around number 2 in the draft, and he fell to them at number 5. And so many people thought that they really got a steal, and maybe they did. We don't know again how either of these two guys will do in their major league career, and I wish them all the best. At first, when I heard about the trade, I was a little bit taken aback because I feel like the Jays might have overpaid. Not that Jose Barrios isn't a very good starting pitcher, because he is. I guess the knock from the Blue Jays standpoint on that whole deal is that they get a year, what's left of this year and all of next year in terms of team control. And that's it. After that, he's eligible for free agency. So see how all of that goes. But honestly, as a Blue Jays fan who's looking at this season and interested in them winning now and trying their best to be a playoff team this year and next year and see how far it can take them, it's so great to have him. He pitched this past Sunday in Toronto. It was his Blue Jays debut. 6 scoreless, shutout, scoreless, pick a word. 6 innings, didn't give up any runs, and got the win in his Blue Jays debut. Even though he wasn't super sharp, he gave up a little bit of hard contact. Defense did their thing, which was great. He also hit a couple of batters, but when he had to, he buckled down and didn't allow any runs. So that's really great. It's great to have him in a Blue Jays uniform. And so sort of sliding into the heart of the order. So talking about the trade deadline, the acquisitions, the big splash that they made, as well as having them back in Toronto. So what a crazy trade deadline, with so many big name players changing teams. I mean, so many teams got into it. The Blue Jays, yes, they were buyers, and they made a big splash, and a lot of other contending teams did too. So yeah, now that the dust has settled, it will be interesting to see how it all works out. And yeah, I mean, now the Blue Jays, they've already got one of the better offenses in baseball in terms of the total number of runs scored per game on average. And now they really have 4 very solid front of the rotation arms in terms of their performance this year. I mean, Hyun-Jin Ryu, we know about him. We know about his history. We know how good he was before signing with the Jays. He lived up to it last year, only in 60 games, but still. And this year he had a rough month of June. And other than that, he has really done well. He was good in April and May. He's settled back down, whatever was going on with him. He's become a legitimate frontline starting pitcher again. So great to have him in a Blue Jays uniform. Robbie Ray, I mean, what could anyone have expected when he signed after somewhat of a rough season last year? Let's face it, he was just walking too many guys, and as a result, the runs allowed. And then he re-signed for 1 year, like, okay, well, let's see what they can do with him. And they've turned him into a legitimate front of the rotation starter as well. When he goes out there, he almost always gives the team a really good chance to win. So great that he's around. Alek Manoah, I was talking about him previously. I mean, what a find he has ended up being so far in his young major league career. He's just done so well. And now they have Barrios. I mean, that's 4 guys that every time they take the ball, Blue Jays fans feel like we have a pretty good chance to win this game. Just have to do the other things right, and all of that. And now it just depends. What do they do to round out the rotation? So Steven Matz pitched yesterday. We've got Russ Stripling going today, and both of them at times have pitched quite well. But it's the lack of consistency that you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from one game to another. So it'll be interesting to see what they do long term. For now, it looks like they're going with a 6-man rotation. Another thing to keep in mind is that in less than a week's time, the Blue Jays have to get through 2 doubleheaders. So there's one this Saturday, and there's another one just this coming Tuesday out in Anaheim. So yeah, I mean they're going to keep the 6 starters at the very least to get them through all of that. And then what are they going to do? Are they going to continue with the 6-man rotation? We'll see. A lot of people seem to think that there's some benefits to doing it that way. Myself, I kind of see it this way. So as I said, you've got 4 starting pitchers that give you a really, really good chance to win pretty much every time out. Then you've got 2 other guys that you almost flip a coin. Are you going to see the good version or the not so good version? So are you giving your chance the best team to best? Are you giving your team the best chance to win 4 games out of every 5 or 4 games out of every 6? Let's face it, the Blue Jays have some ground that they have to make up if they want to get into the playoffs this season. So to me, I think it behooves them to really go out there and put your best foot forward and try to win every game. So I don't know if that's what they're going to end up doing. Some people have pointed to the fact that Stripling has actually been a swingman in the past. The Blue Jays traded for him midseason last year. Prior to that, he'd spent his career with the Dodgers. So, I mean, he's done long relief. He's started. He's been a spot starter. And I wonder, after they get through these 2 doubleheaders, maybe that's the way they'll end up going. They take him out of the rotation and go with Matt as the 5th starter and hope he pitches like he did yesterday, because that was darn good. If only he could be like that or something close to that every time out. But anyway, well, we'll see what they end up doing. So yeah, there's the team, there's being back in Toronto. As I called attention to my t-shirt earlier, so I was there at the opening game in Toronto, and it was amazing. It was so great to have the Blue Jays finally back home where they belong. I mean, it was a sellout as much as they're allowed to sell now, which is total capacity in the building of 15,000, but you've got to subtract other people. So whether that's players, all your coaching staff, all the stadium staff, the media, anybody else who's being there without buying a ticket. So what you're left over with, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 13,000 and so. And yeah, I mean, the Blue Jays won. They played a terrific game. There was a couple of home runs. Hernandez, Bo Bichette, Santiago Espinal, who I'm a big fan of his. I mean, he was playing third base, made a barehanded catch that I didn't think he had a chance to get to, and that ended the game. Otherwise, he would have had the tying run on base in the 9th inning, and not something you ideally want to see. So just so exciting, and hopefully it'll be a real boost to the team to actually be here in Toronto where their fans are and have a true home field advantage, and see how far that helps to carry them for the rest of the season. Excuse me, one moment. Well, on that note, we're almost out of time. So that brings me to Through Blue Jay Colored Glasses. So once again, sticking with the theme of the Blue Jays as a team and their outlook for the rest of this season. So I've been saying for quite some time, if you watch this show regularly, you've probably heard me say over and over again that I believe that this team is going to be a wild card team in 2021. And in saying that, honestly, at some point, with them being a bit further back in the standings and having other teams that they had to catch and pass, I believed it, but I had to recognize that they would be bucking the odds in order to do that. Well, management believes in this team because you don't give up. two of your highest prospects for a player that you'll have for, call it, a year and a half. If you don't believe in this team and you don't think that they've got a chance to win now, that this management exceeded my expectations in terms of what they were able to do, what they were willing and able to do, willing being the key. It's not that they weren't able, that they've got payroll flexibility and a terrific farm system. So it's not that they can't make trades. I didn't think that they would go all in to this extent, but they did. And what's done is done. And Jose Barrios is a Toronto Blue Jay, along with those other players and the core that they'd already built. And so much talent here and so much progression. And now I'm not just going to say that, you know what, they're going to be a wild card team, because I believe in them and I think that they can buck the odds. Now it's expected. You don't make these kinds of moves unless you're expecting to go to the playoffs. And they're not just looking, again, with this kind of a move and this kind of bold trade, they're not just thinking, well, you know, we kind of sort of want to see if we can squeeze into a wild card spot, and then whatever happens, happens. They're expecting to win. They're expecting to win this year as well as next year. And it's so exciting to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan and have this team to watch day in and day out. And I think it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be quite 2015 good this year. We'll see. But I'm expecting big things for the rest of the season. So Blue Jay fans, fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. And on that note, that's pretty much it for today. Let's go Blue Jays. Let's hope we get a series win today, and I'll see you again next week.